All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking all about Godzilla.
All about Godzilla.
We've got a really awesome collection of material here.
Oh, yeah.
A really detailed history and exploration of the past and present of Godzilla. Also some interesting information on the MonsterVerse. Our goal today is to basically take you through all this material and help you emerge with a better understanding of Godzilla, how it came to be, what it means, and why it continues to kind of shake our world.
That's right. Yeah, we want to give you a nice little shortcut through decades of this material so you can really grasp what this pop culture titan is all about.
Yeah, so where do we start?
Well, I think it makes sense to start right at the beginning, the very first film from 1954.
Yeah, let's unpack that.
Yeah, because to really understand Godzilla, you have to understand what the atmosphere in Japan was like at the time. They were still dealing with the trauma of the nuclear bombings. And then the Lucky Dragon 5 incident, where that fishing boat got caught in the fallout of a hydrogen bomb test, that was a huge wake-up call, like a collective trauma.
Yeah, and that's where Godzilla comes in, right? It wasn't just a giant lizard knocking over buildings. There was something much deeper going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Godzilla was like the physical manifestation of that nuclear terror, that destructive force unleashed by humanity. I mean, it gave a face to that anxiety, you know what I mean? And it's interesting, some people have even interpreted Godzilla as a metaphor for the United States itself, this powerful entity that had these really devastating consequences for Japan.
It's just incredible how a movie monster can hold that much weight, you know?
It really is.
The name Godzilla itself is so iconic.
Oh, totally.
Our sources go into the story about the producer, Tomoyuki Tanaka,
Right.
naming the monster after he had a nickname. He was a worker at Toho, right? Right. And his nickname was Gojira, which was it's a combination of gorilla and whale.
Yeah, that's a popular story, right? And the studio, director Honda, they've all confirmed this or seemed to over the years. The idea was that this guy, Shiru Amakura, had a gorilla-like build.
Ah.
And he loved to eat whale meat. So that's where that combination came from.
There is a little twist to the story, though, right?
Yeah.
Director Honda's widow actually cast a little bit of doubt on this origin story.
Yeah, in a BBC documentary, Kimi Honda actually referred to it as more of a tall tale and suggested that the name may have been, more intentionally chosen by the creative team. And Honda's assistant director also weighed in and said that, even those closest to them weren't really sure what the real story was.
It's pretty interesting.
It is. It's kind of like this extra little mystery,
Yeah.
behind the origin of the monster.
And then obviously Gojira became Godzilla for, overseas audiences. Our research shows that the first English usage of the word was actually in a Hawaiian newspaper in 1955, which is pretty cool.
Pretty wild way back then. And did you know there was a moment when they were developing the American release of Godzilla raids again that they were considering calling him Gigantus?
Wow.
Yeah, the producer, Paul Schreibman, apparently wanted to make him really distinct for the American market.
It's interesting that they stuck with Godzilla.
Yeah, I think it shows how powerful that original name was.
Totally. Okay, so we have the birth, we have the branding. Let's get into the character. How has this character changed over time? Our sources mention that while the basic idea of the prehistoric sea creature awakened by radiation that's kind of consistent.
Right.
The finer details about the origins change from, the different Japanese film eras.
Yeah, it's interesting because that core concept is so adaptable.
Right.
Every era, Showa, Heisei, Millennium, they all put their own little spin on Godzilla's backstory.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were reflecting the concerns and, the trends of their specific times.
Right.
This myth that was constantly being retold,
It is. And the design, the visual design, it's so iconic.
It really is.
And our material notes that it was initially inspired by the Rheosaurus from the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, but then it became this hybrid. It incorporated elements of T-Rex, Iguanodon, Stegosaurus, even an alligator.
Yeah, that was all thanks to Akira Watanabe, the art director. He's the one that kind of blended all of those dinosaur features into something new and memorable.
Right.
And what's really striking? The texture of Godzilla's skin.
Yeah.
That was actually inspired by the keloid scars of Hiroshima survivors.
Wow.
So it was like this direct visual reminder of the nuclear devastation that created him.
That is a really, really powerful and sobering connection.
Definitely.
The sources also mention the color variations.
Right.
Usually a charcoal gray in films, but sometimes it's green in the comic books.
Yeah, I mean, the gray with the white dorsal plates, that really became the standard during that Suitmasian era. And the green, I guess, was used more in different media, artistic interpretations, whatever.
This is something I found really interesting, the way Godzilla's gender is handled. In the original Japanese films, it uses gender-neutral pronouns, but in the English dubs, almost always male.
Yeah, co-creator Tomoyuki Tanaka himself, he said that he thought the monster was probably male, but also entertained the idea that the original 1954 Godzilla might have been female.
Really?
And the writer Jeffrey Angles, he translated some of the early Godzilla novellas into English, and he actually opted for male pronouns, partly because he kind of saw the monster as a stand-in for the male-dominated world of American hydrogen bomb development.
Interesting.
But overall, Toho, they kind of tend to view their kaiju as, gender-neutral forces of nature.
Right, like you're trying to fit a human concept onto something so massive it doesn't even really compute.
Yeah, it's like trying to put it in a box.
So what about Godzilla's motivations? It seems like they've really evolved over the years.
Oh, totally. I mean, initially he was just purely destructive, the villain.
Right.
But then he gradually started to become more of an anti-hero and sometimes even a protector of the Earth. He's not really a fan of humans, but he'll often team up with us when there are bigger threats around.
Yeah.
It's not really driven by typical things.
Yeah.
Like hunger. It sustains itself on nuclear radiation.
Right.
And actually whales and large fish.
Wow, so not your average lizard?
Not at all, no.
Now, our sources quoted producer Shugo Tomiyama describing Godzilla as a Shinto god of destruction, without inherent morality.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It takes it away from that typical good versus evil kind of thing.
Right.
To more of a, like a cycle of destruction and rebirth.
Right.
Tanaka himself actually noted that we're potential allies with Godzilla when there are larger threats out there.
Right.
But fundamentally, we're adversaries.
Right.
Because it's just too dangerous.
Right.
For us to exist together.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the origins. We've talked about kind of the evolving personality. Let's talk about the firepower, like that atomic heat beam. That's Godzilla's signature move.
Oh, the iconic weapon, right.
Yeah.
Basically, nuclear energy, generated internally, focused electromagnetically, unleashed as a concentrated beam of radioactive energy from its jaws. And you see it in these different colors, sometimes blue, sometimes red. And the special effects teams over the years, they've used everything from actual flames to hand-drawn animation to CGI, obviously, to bring that to life.
And it's not just the breath weapon, right?
No.
Godzilla's got some serious physical strength, too.
Oh, for sure.
Our sources mentioned that Haruo Nakajima, the actor who played Godzilla in the original suit, was actually a judo black belt.
That's right.
And brought that expertise to the monster's fight choreography.
Yeah, so those early battles, they weren't just like random, flailing around.
Right.
There was some actual skill and thought put into it.
Yeah.
Thanks to Nakajima.
And of course, Godzilla is amphibious.
Totally.
Perfectly comfortable in the water and actually breathing through pore-shaped gills.
That's right. In the first film, they describe that as like evidence of a transitional form,
Interesting.
between land and sea creatures.
And the durability is legendary.
Oh, it's incredible.
It shrugs off conventional weaponry, survives nuclear blasts. Some versions even have an electromagnetic pulse-producing organ.
Oh, wow.
For added protection.
I'm so resilient.
Beyond those core powers, we've seen things in different media, comics and stuff like that, like atomic pulses, magnetism, precognition.
Yeah, they just kept adding to the repertoire. It's like, what else can this monster do?
Yeah. Let's move on to another really iconic element, the roar.
Ooh.
Like you can just hear it in your head.
Oh, definitely. That screonk.
Yeah.
2 syllables. And that was actually created by Akira Ifukube. He was a really brilliant composer. He got that sound by rubbing a resin-coated glove along a contrabass string and then slowing down the playback.
Wow, that's so simple.
I know, right? It's crazy to think such a terrifying sound came from something so simple.
It really does speak to the ingenuity behind these early effects.
Absolutely.
Now, our sources also mention there have been variations in the roar over time.
Oh, yeah.
A deeper sound in the Heisei era, and then it changed again.
Right.
And then the 2014 American film, they described the roar as representing both fury and soul.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The sound designers for that film, they didn't really talk much about how they did it, but yeah, that idea of like 2 syllables representing different emotions, that's pretty cool.
Adds another layer to it.
For sure.
Let's talk about something that seems to fluctuate quite a bit, Godzilla size.
Yeah.
Our research points out there's inconsistencies even within the same film.
Yeah, well, that's mostly due to artistic license and, practicality, like filmmaking. The miniature sets, the costumes, they weren't always built to the same scale.
Yeah.
and they would film at different frame rates to create the illusion of size, you know?
Yeah.
The original 1954 height was 50 meters, which was chosen specifically so that it would be taller than the tallest buildings in Tokyo at the time.
But that didn't last too long.
No, it didn't.
The American version in 1956, they said it was 121.9 meters tall.
Yeah, I guess the producer felt 50 meters wasn't powerful enough for American audiences.
And then as Tokyo's skyline grew,
Right.
Toho scaled up Godzilla over the years as well.
Right, to maintain that sense of scale.
Exactly.
Keep him as this massive being.
Yeah, and the weight fluctuated too. I saw that it ranged from like 20,000 to 60,000 metric tons.
Yeah, that's a big range.
It is. And then the MonsterVerse films took it to a whole other level.
Oh, yeah.
The 2014 Godzilla was around 108 meters, and then in later installments, it grew to almost 120 meters.
Oh.
The anime series had a 300-meter-tall Godzilla.
Oh, my God.
And then Shin Godzilla was 118.5 meters, so everyone wants the biggest Godzilla.
It's an arms race, basically.
It is.
But I think it's more than just that. It also highlights that Godzilla's size isn't always about realism,
Right.
It's a storytelling tool to show just how powerful and overwhelming he can be.
Right, right. Okay, so how do you bring something of that scale to life? Our sources talk about the special effects, and starting with suitmation, that technique.
Yes, suitmation is really the heart of classic Godzilla, An actor inside a really elaborate latex costume interacting with these miniature sets.
Right.
Special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya, he actually wanted to use stop motion.
Oh, interesting.
For the first film.
Wow.
He was inspired by King Kong,
Oh.
But they had some time constraints.
Ah.
And they didn't have enough experienced animators in Japan, so suitmation became the practical choice.
Makes sense. And those suits, I can't imagine how uncomfortable they were.
Oh, they were brutal.
Made with wires, bamboo, fabric, cushions, all coated in latex. The weight and the heat in those things.
Oh, yeah. The first Godzilla suit weighed over 100 kilograms.
Oh, my God.
Haruo Nakajima, the guy who played Godzilla from 1954 to 1972, he talked about how challenging it was. He said he would be drenched in sweat in just minutes.
Yeah.
And later actors, Kenpachiro Satsuma, who played Godzilla in the Heisei era, he said the suits actually got heavier and hotter because they started incorporating animatronics.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some serious health issues because of it.
That's dedication.
It really is.
I read about near-drowning incidents, concussions, even electric shocks. It sounds more like extreme training than acting.
It's crazy what they went through.
Yeah.
They did eventually start adding air ducts to the suits for better ventilation.
That's good.
Yeah, it was definitely needed.
As film technology got better,
Right.
so did the techniques, right?
Sure.
Animatronics, CGI, those started to play bigger roles, especially for close-ups.
Yeah, more complex movements, things like that.
Sure.
Like in 1984, they used a large robotic Godzilla for the head movements.
Uh-huh.
And the 1998 American film had this huge animatronic figure.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild.
And then, the full CGI portrayal in the 2014 MonsterVerse film.
Right.
The team actually studied all sorts of different animals to get the movements right.
Yeah, they were looking at bears, Komodo dragons, lizards, everything.
To inform Godzilla's underlying structure, even the texture of its scales.
They really wanted to make it realistic.
And then, motion capture.
Oh, yeah. TJ Storm did the performance capture for those films.
Right.
So they were able to capture some human movement in the digital creation, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And Shin Godzilla used CGI and motion capture, too.
It did, and with Mansai Nomura as the actor.
Right. And then Godzilla -1 won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects.
That's amazing.
It's really incredible, like the artistry and the technical skill it takes to bring Godzilla to life.
Absolutely, and it shows that people still really appreciate Godzilla and all the work that goes into it.
From somebody sweating inside a rubber suit to cutting-edge CGI, the evolution of Godzilla is almost as compelling as the monster itself.
Totally agree.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the impact this giant lizard has had on our world.
Okay.
Global recognition feels like an understatement, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most recognizable symbols of Japanese pop culture, I would say, globally.
Mm.
And he basically laid the foundation for the whole kaiju subgenre within tokusatsu cinema, which is all about those special effects heavy productions featuring giant monsters.
Yeah, that very specific shape and the way he moves.
It really resonated with audiences.
And the sources suggest that audiences in Japan, they really connected with Godzilla's rage.
Right.
And its instinct for self-preservation. Like, it wasn't just mindless destruction.
No, it was more like, a creature reacting to threats.
Yeah, and as we talked about before, those early films, they served as a metaphor for nuclear anxieties, but those interpretations have expanded over time, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, some people even see Godzilla as a metaphor for the United States and its power.
Wow. Yeah.
It's amazing how much people read into it.
And that initial villainous portrayal, it started to change.
Yes.
The turning point seems to be around 1964 with Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, where Godzilla actually teams up with other monsters.
Oh, right. Against a common enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge shift for him, becoming more of an anti-hero.
Right.
Roger Ebert even said that Godzilla is like the perfect example of a villain who turned into a hero.
Yeah, it really shows how audience perception can reshape a character over time.
Absolutely.
And our research actually calls Godzilla the original radioactive superhero.
What?
Yeah, even predating Spider-Man.
Wow, never thought about that.
But it did take a few more years for that heroic persona to really take hold.
Right.
By the 1970s, though, Godzilla was fully embraced as a hero, and he even surpassed Superman and Batman in some polls in Japan.
That's incredible.
It really is. For a creature that started out as this embodiment of nuclear destruction,
Wow.
now the impact goes way beyond just the films themselves. We see parodies, tributes, commercials. I mean, Bambi meets Godzilla.
Oh, classic.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, all the references in shows like Mystery Science Theater 3000. That Blue Oyster Cult song, and even that Nike commercial with Charles Barkley playing basketball against Godzilla.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And it's not just like casual nods.
Right.
Godzilla's success, it really opened the door for other giant monster characters like Gamera, Cloverfield Monster.
Totally.
And even paleontologists have gotten in on the fun.
Really?
Yeah, they nicknamed this extinct sea crocodile Godzilla.
Oh, that's great.
And they've even written these tongue-in-cheek articles about its hypothetical biology.
That's amazing.
And then there are all these legal battles to protect the Godzilla trademark.
Oh, yeah, they're serious about protecting their intellectual property.
Lawsuits against Subway, Honda, all sorts of companies.
Godzilla's a big deal.
Yeah, and our sources mention Steven Spielberg citing Godzilla as a direct inspiration for Jurassic Park and Jaws.
Wow, that's huge.
It really is like one of the biggest names in film acknowledging Godzilla's impact on the monster movie genre.
That's pretty special.
And the honors keep coming. MTV Lifetime Achievement Award, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, even a dinosaur, Gojirasaurus, an asteroid, 1/1781 Gojira, and a geological feature, Godzilla Megamillion, named in its honor.
It's gone way beyond just entertainment at this point.
Yeah.
It's part of our culture.
Yeah, and then, of course, being named a special resident and tourism ambassador of Shinjuku, Tokyo.
That's awesome.
From terrifying metaphor to beloved cultural icon and a tourism mascot.
What a journey.
It really is. So let's talk about the MonsterVerse.
Okay, let's dive into that.
The MonsterVerse is Legendary Pictures' American multimedia franchise. It brings together these iconic giants, Godzilla and King Kong, along with a bunch of other Toho monsters.
Yeah, it's a whole cinematic universe with 5 films and 2 TV series already out there.
And it's been a massive success, over $2.5 billion worldwide at the box office.
That's incredible.
It all started with that 2014 Godzilla film,
Right.
which was, I think, originally envisioned as like a fresh American take on the classic monster.
Yeah, and writer Max Borenstein actually credits Thomas Tull at Legendary for really pushing for this whole MonsterVerse concept. Because he's the one who secured the rights to Godzilla.
Right.
And then he navigated all the legal stuff to bring in King Kong, too.
Right, with the ultimate goal of having them face off in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Exactly.
They also acquired the rights to Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah.
Oh, yeah, they went all out.
I remember when they made that announcement at Comic-Con with the tagline, "Conflict inevitable, let them fight."
Oh, that's right.
It must have sent shockwaves through the monster movie fandom.
Oh, for sure.
And then, strategically moving Kong Skull Island to Warner Bros.
Yeah.
That just fueled the speculation. And then creating Monarch, that shadowy government agency dedicated to studying these creatures as this connecting thread for all the films.
Yeah, it really helped to build that shared universe.
So far, we've seen Godzilla, 2014, Kong, Skull Island, 2017, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, 2019, Godzilla vs. Kong, 2021, And Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, which came out in 2024.
Wow, they've been busy.
Plus the animated Skull Island series on Netflix.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Monarch, Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV+.
It's a fully fledged universe.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's a lot more to come. Talks about crossovers with Pacific Rim.
Oh, cool.
The possibility of films focusing more on the Titans, and even more films and TV series planned.
It just keeps growing.
The music for these films has also been incredible.
Oh, yeah. The scores are amazing.
Alexandre Desplat's score for the 2014 film, so atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Jackman perfectly captured that 70s vibe for Kong, Skull Island.
Yes, he did.
Bear McCreary incorporated those classic Afukapu themes and that Blue Oyster cult cover in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, he really nailed it.
And then Tom Holkenborg's themes for the Godzilla vs. Kong films are just, they're so powerful.
They are.
The composers really honored the legacy while also bringing their own unique style.
They really did.
We've certainly gone deep into the world of Godzilla.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
From his somber beginnings as a nuclear metaphor,
Right?
to his current status as a global icon and a key player in a massive cinematic universe.
It's really incredible how he's evolved.
Godzilla's appeal, it seems to lie in his ability to reflect our anxieties. From nuclear weapons to, broader concerns about the environment.
Right. The power of nature.
And at the same time, satisfying our desire for spectacle.
Something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, that can be both destructive and protective.
That's a great way to put it.
As we wrap up, here's a final thought. Considering all the different ways Godzilla has been resurrected and reinterpreted over the decades, what do you think future versions of Godzilla will reveal about our relationship with science, technology, and the natural world? Is Godzilla this timeless symbol destined to be reimagined for each new generation as they explore the unknown? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Godzilla.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.